Double-digit thousands stacks.
Welcome back to the We Don't Know Sports podcast. Joining me today, we have our MLB, former Atlanta Braves employee, Ben Sheffield, as well as 10-year veteran MLB pitcher, Ed Vosburg. Pitched for several teams here. I have the Padres, Giants, A's, Rangers, Marlins, Padres, D-backs, Phillies, and the Expos. So welcome to the show, fellas. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
Good, man. I actually don't advertise my college days of working for the Braves all that much, but I like the intro. It makes me feel important.
No, we got to give credit where credit is due. Quit being so humble here.
Don't be modest. Okay.
Hey, don't be modest on this show. It's fine. We only bring the big guests on this show, and you're one of them. So I'd like to get rolling with. I know you've heard this a ton, but you're one of three players ever that's been in a Little League World Series there in Arizona. You played for Arizona at college. You went to the College World Series, and then you're also in the Major League World Series with the 97 Marlins, along with Jason Varitek and Michael Conforto. So how does that feel? In 150 years of MLB, you're one of three.
You know, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool statistic. I always think back to a friend of mine when we were getting ready in the playoffs in 97, and he brought it to my attention. We were playing the Giants. We had eliminated the Giants, and then we're on to play the Braves. And he called me one day and he goes, "Hey, I didn't know if you know this, but if you make it to the World Series," he goes, "I think you're going to be the only one that's ever done it." So he brought it to my attention before it had happened. And so I just kept my fingers crossed. Kevin Brown comes in, I think game 6 or 5 in San Diego in relief against the Braves and loses the game. So I was panicking a little bit. But then Sterling Hitchcock came back and pitched game 6. Masterful game against the Braves. And then we were on to the World Series.
So being a part of that 97 team, there's a pretty special team. Like what the Marlins do when they get to the World Series, they win it. Yeah, 97 and 03.
Right.
Wasn't Jimmy Leland on 97 or was he 03? Who was your manager in 97?
It was Jim Leland. Fabulous. Not only a manager, but just a great human being.
And it was against Cleveland?
Cleveland, yeah. Great. I guess they say it's one of the greatest World Series. Went game 7, went extra innings. You know, every team alternated with wins. We won game 1, 3, 5, and 7, and they won 2, 4, and 6. So, you know, the interesting thing about that World Series was I got into game 2 of the games that we lost, and I was warming up to get in game 7. I was literally going to be the next pitcher if Edgar Renteria doesn't get that hit off Charles Nagy in the bottom of, I believe, the 10th or the 11th.
I mean, talk about a constant professional, the Edgar Renteria, man.
He was fabulous. He was about 20 years old then. Incredible defensive player, really good hitter as well. Gold glove shortstop from Colombia. Just a really, really good kid. I got to play with him when he was really young. But he had a really great career and just a fabulous player.
We were able to enjoy him on his back years here in Atlanta for a few seasons. I know he had a couple of all-star years here and was just a fantastic addition to our team and our lineup here for fans like myself and Greg. We're both Braves fans, obviously, but it was a good time watching them come in here and contribute as well. So
yeah, I mean, he came in and made all the plays. Even though he's an older age at the latter part of his career, he gave us everything we could possibly ask for in that signing there. Great ball player. Like I said, I felt like he's one of those players that always done it right. But as far as those three, the 97 with the Marlins, in college, were you strictly a pitcher for Arizona, or did you also play the field as well?
Well, as a freshman, that was my freshman year. I was a pretty good hitter coming up. I got a chance to get some at-bats as a sophomore, junior, and senior. I didn't get any as a freshman. But as a junior and senior, I was a designated hitter when I didn't pitch. And so I got a chance. I actually batted cleanup on my senior year at the U of A. If you can believe this, I tied for the lead in home runs with 6. We had 2 other players who had 6 home runs. And I did miss a month with some arm tendonitis. But, yeah, I loved hitting, swinging the bat. I really appreciate what Shohei Ohtani has done. Just a phenomenal athlete that he is. It's incredible that he's on his second Tommy John, but man, what an athlete, what a player, what a pitcher.
So for you at the college level, you're having to prepare as a pitcher and a hitter. I mean, think about what you just said with Ohtani, the fact that imagine the preparation that man has to go through to prepare for both sides of the ball.
I get it. I mean, I hit as a when I was a minor league player coming up, I hit for myself in the National League. So I know what it's like. It's a lot. I mean, I loved it in college because it got me out of doing pitching drills. I got a chance to take batting practice every day. I didn't love to do fielding practice as a pitcher. So I loved it because it got me out of the monotony of being a pitching and doing all the PFP and stuff. But again, I almost played first base as a senior. I played it all fall ball. And then in my last minute, my coach, Jerry Kindle, rest in peace, decided that he was only going to let me pitch and then hit from as a DH. But I was really looking forward to playing first base and pitching.
So
yeah, I was,
go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Real quick question. You came up as a Padre in the National League on your side, and talking about hitting, you played in an era where pitchers were hitting, and I know you were a starter very early on. How did you wind up batting at the major league level in your brief?
I only got 2 at bats, sadly, in the big leagues. One of them was a start against the Braves. I faced Jim Acker. He struck me out on a nasty knuckle curve that he had, and I also faced Vita Blue in my major league debut.
Oh no, come on, man! That's a tough assignment.
It was, and I hit a line drive to shortstop. I hit it pretty good. But, yeah, I remember looking across the dugout and seeing Vita and going, wow, I'm facing a guy that was rookie of the year. I think he won an MVP his first year. He was a icon. He was a phenomenal, and a great guy. I got a chance to talk to him one day. But, yeah, that was pretty cool that I got a chance to face Vita in my major league debut.
We actually had that as a trivia question like 2 weeks ago. Vita Blue is the youngest MVP in the history of MLB still to this day. At age 22.
Yeah, he was really fun to watch. Obviously, I had a thing for left-handers because, he was a guy I looked up to, Sandy Koufax, Steve Carlton, a lot of the great left-handed pitchers. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see him over there. He actually got a hit on me. Did swing the bat. I'm sure he was a great athlete himself. But I pitched a really good game. I threw 4 scoreless innings against him. Kevin McReynolds dropped a fly ball in the 5th, which kind of cost me. I came out of the game losing. We ended up winning the game in the bottom of the 9th. I think Benito Santiago hit a home run to win the game. But it was pretty cool. I didn't lose him. I did debut, and it was surreal. You dream as a kid playing the Little League World Series, and then I got to the big leagues, and I looked around and thinking, wow, this is everything that you dream of as a kid.
Yeah. So to add to the last step of the puzzle here, I want to backtrack one more time to Little League World Series in '73. Was it as big as it is now? And like I feel like there's certain players you can even watch in the Little League World Series and know that, man, this kid has a future in the big leagues.
No, it wasn't even close to what it is today. Matter of fact, I never even saw the game until I think right around the year 2000 because it was taped. It was, tape delayed, I think, back then. I don't even think it was live. But a reporter from the Philadelphia Phillies, when I was there, did a story on me and said, I have the tape of the game. Would you like it? And I said, of course. I've never even seen it. So she gave me a copy. I was able to get copies made for all the guys on our team. It wasn't the greatest game to watch because we got no hit by Taiwan. But still, to see Keith Jackson, the great commentator Keith Jackson was. He interviewed us. It was cool. There was 32,000 people at the game.
Oh, wow.
Most of them Taiwanese people, but it was a really good game until it was 0-0 until the fourth inning, and then Taiwan came alive with the bats, and they ended up beating us 12-0. 3 no-hitters in the tournament, and then one of their kids threw a perfect game.
Oh, wow.
Wow. They may have all been 15 though, so it's
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. We played ping pong against them. We saw them around because we all stayed in barracks. These kids were shaving at 11 and 12, so we know that they were not 11 and 12 because the Taiwanese people themselves really are not. They don't have a lot of facial hair, but these kids were definitely developed. We never saw a kid throw like that. The kid that threw against us, I mean, he threw so hard that the ball was literally a blur. I fouled one ball off. I think we had 2 kids to put the ball in play, but yeah, this kid was head and shoulders above anybody we ever saw.
Speaking of the team, I'm going to jump in here real quickly. Speaking of the team that you played on in '73, you had some big league ties around you in that area there. Talk a little bit about those guys.
We did. Matter of fact, Mike Carrion, his younger brother Mark, played in the big leagues. He was on our team the following year. The interesting story about our 73 team, my 74 team almost made it back to Williamsport. We were 2 victories away from repeating to Williamsport. We lost in the semifinals in the Western Regionals. Unfortunately, we had a kid that got sick, and we had a kid that came in and who was a backup, and he never played. And who'd they hit the ball to? They hit it to him. And unfortunately, he didn't make the plays, and we lost a really tough game against a really good California team. But, we just were unlucky that next year. We had a lot of great breaks the year that we went all the way to the finals. But you got to be a little lucky to win in sports.
Sure. Especially at that age and that level of when you're getting that close to the sun, for lack of a better phrase, luck matters, right? So.
And as soon as you get in that game, man, that ball finds you. It happens every time.
It did, and I felt bad. He's a great kid, and it was a really close game. I think we lost 5-3, but just to get we win city, state, and then won our first 2 games in the regionals, and we came really close. I don't think we were as good a team, but we just happened to just have an unfortunate break of a guy that got sick and couldn't play that day.
I know we just passed the 50-year anniversary of that team, and obviously you and I did some things last year. I know that you got interviewed by the Little League World Series organization, which I thought was really cool. Talk to us a little bit about your relationships that you still have with those teammates that are still around. I mean, I'm sure that you guys are still connected and friendly to one another and so on and so forth.
Well, we just got inducted, our Little League team, into the Pima County, which is Tucson's Pima County. We got inducted in the Pima County Sports Hall of Fame after 50 years, and we had a great reunion with our guys. Everybody that's still alive came back except one guy. I think we've had 2 players that have passed away. Both of our coaches have passed away, sadly. But I always say that my Little League manager, his name was Ralph Lennox, probably was the greatest coach I've ever had in Little Leagues. Think about this. He had the ability to get the most out of his guys. He was kind of an old school. He yelled like coaches are not allowed to do nowadays, or can't get away with. But he praised everybody, and he always had the greatest defensive teams because he really emphasized fundamentals. And the fundamentals. You look at all the teams that have success; they're all fundamentally sound.
So let's jump back to the big leagues. My big question for you, Ed, is 10-year career, several teams. Is there a one player that, like, during this time that you saw and you're just like, wow, like the talent of this guy is like, I'm kind of blown away?
I had a few of them, actually. I was really lucky to play with some phenomenal players. Ben and I always talk about Tony Gwynn. He to me was the greatest pure hitter that I ever saw. He loved talking about baseball too. He loved talking about hitting. We would sit around talk about hitting I would pick his brain, and he would tell me, some of the things that the pitchers that gave him problems, like Denny Nagel, he told me gave him a lot of problems because of his changeup. But Tony loved to talk about base or pitching and hitting, and I was lucky to play with Pudge Rodriguez, who I think is the greatest catcher that ever lived, and Juan Gonzalez. I played with Will Clark, was a phenomenal talent at first base, great competitor. I played with Gary Carter. He was one of my favorite teammates of all time. But I was lucky enough to play with I got a chance to be teammates with Vladimir Guerrero a little bit in Montreal. Some really great talents. But I think, Tony, just the love of the game that he had. He was such a passionate lover of the game. You don't see that anymore. You don't see that. You don't see people that take pride in their profession. Like, everybody wants to hit the home run. They want to try to throw the ball 100. It's not a game that I can really watch anymore, because it's not the game that I grew up playing.
So that led me to my next question, because like a player like Tony Gwynn is kind of forgotten in today's game. You have a Luis Arraez, who's now traded to the Padres, who's similar to Gwynn, like the way they approach the game. I'm not saying he's Tony Gwynn by any means, but like the fact is now, like you said, a strikeout, walk, or home run. Like
three outcomes.
Yeah, like Tony Gwynn would be a lost hitter in today's game, as far as like people may not even scout him, which is very frustrating. It's kind of like a Greg Maddux, who don't have the velocity. But so my question was, do you still follow the game at today's level? And if not, why not? Which you've kind of already touched on.
It's harder to watch. I don't follow it like I used to. Brent Strom, who's the pitching coach with the Diamondbacks, is still a friend of mine. We talk from time to time. I really loved watching the Diamondbacks, the run they had last year. They have a lot of young guys. They play the game like old school, small ball. They use their speed. They bunt. They got good pitching, good bullpen. But, it's kind of hard to watch it now. I love watching Shohei when he pitches and he hits, because he's such a specimen. I mean, think about what a great hitter he is now. He's hitting, 330. I think he could hit 50 home runs if he stays healthy, because he doesn't have to worry about pitching now. But, he is a modern day Babe Ruth. He really is. And, he's fun to watch. I love the fact that he steals bases. He's an athlete, and he reminds me of, a Little League all-star who was the best player on your team is the pitcher and the shortstop, because they're always the best hitters, and the pitcher is usually the best pitcher, is usually the best hitter and the best athlete, like Shohei.
I think what Shohei is doing this year is incredibly phenomenal. Obviously, he's doing all this with a bad wing, for one. Obviously, he's just swinging a bat. He's not throwing or anything along those lines. But into the season with the scandal that came up with his name tied to it, for him to be going through all of that and having the year that he's having right now is unbelievable to me. I think he's just having a fantastic season. So,
plus the market in the market that he's in LA, the LA is a huge market, and having teammates, he just looks like he has fun. I mean, it looks like he jokes with everybody. He talks to everybody. The Japanese guys I got a chance to be there when Hideo Nomo came up with the Dodgers, and also Chan-Ho Park. Mm-hmm. And you want to talk about a whirlwind. Those two guys in spring training, I think Hideo was probably the first great Japanese pitcher that came over. And then you had Chan-Ho Park that came over from Korea, and what a talent that he was. And he kind of underachieved a little bit. But, yeah, now the game is so international. You see all these great players from everywhere. And baseball, they keep saying that it's not an African-American game anymore. There's not 8% of ball players are black, but, there's so many great Latin players from everywhere, Asian. Just the game has just become universal. It's become global. It really has.
Yeah, I think from a true diversity standpoint, the Asian influx that you mentioned, Latin America, it really is a diverse game today. It's not black-white now. It's black-white, and all the nations kind of scattered on top of that.
I mean, and it's evident, too, in the WBC when we have it every 4 years. You have all these teams now that represent major league players on pretty much all the teams now of all these different nationalities. So the game has grown that much to where like the fact that Japan beats the USA, it's not a surprise anymore.
It's
No,
almost
it's not.
expected.
And I hate even talking about the umpire thing, but everybody's talking about Angel Hernandez stepping down, and I never really ever thought I would say it, but they really need to get rid of the home plate umpire calling balls and strikes. I really think the pitcher, being a pitcher myself, the home plate umpire seems like he misses so many pitches. And, I know that in tennis, they took away the lines people. Now that, you have the computer calling the line, the serves and everything, and nobody complains about it. Why don't we go to the robo, plate thing behind the plate? Maybe it'll help the game a little bit. I don't know. I never thought I would say that, but there's just so many umpires that are just very bad behind the plate.
I mean, to piggyback off of that real quick. Sorry, Ben. The fact is, and you said you hate to say it, but I'm actually shocked you said it, because I'm not being mean, but the mindset of most players in your era is like, don't touch the game. It's not broken, but I like the fact that you're trying to be proactive. And if there's a ways we can tweak it to make it a little bit better, why not?
Well, we got all the instant replays and everything. I don't like the ghost runner on second base in extra innings. I played a 19-inning game in AAA. One of my last years I played, I was playing with the Phillies in AAA, and we were in the playoffs, and I was playing Scranton. We were playing in Buffalo. We played a 19-inning game. The next day, we had to go and play in Louisville, and it was the finals of our American Association. And guess what day that was? It was 9/11. And that's the day that the planes hit the towers. And we ended up playing one game there. We lost 2-1 in extra inning. We had a 19-inning game, had to play the next day. We lost 2-1, and then it was 9/11, and they gave the Louisville team the championship, even though they only beat us one game. So I was kind of bummed. I would have loved to even though it was a AAA ring, it would have been nice to have another one. But I think it was the only series that they called it. They gave the championship to a team that only won one game. So I thought that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's wild. I don't think I'd ever even heard that story from you myself. That's insane. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and we actually took a vote, and we decided not to play. I don't know why we decided not to play. We should have just kept playing. What the heck? We might as well have played. We only would have had another 3 or 4 more games. Who knows if we would have won or lost? But we had a pretty good team in Scranton, and we ended up losing a tough 2-1 game that day, and lost out on a ring.
I mean, at that point in time, though, no one knew what the hell was going on, and it was uncharted waters. So I think they erred on the side of caution. I mean, it was crazy. So, I mean, we haven't seen it.
Nuts.
Everyone remembers where they were at that time. You happen to be playing AAA. I was a freshman in college trying to learn math. So the fact is, everyone was kind of on pins and needles at that point.
Yeah,
college kid myself that time in the fog. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I was a college kid like Greg. I was in a fog for 2 weeks when that happened. It was unbelievable. What were you about to say, my friend?
I just remember turning on the TV and thinking it was a movie, because I saw
it didn't seem real.
I saw the one plane hit the building. I go, what is going on? Because sometimes you wake up and you're in a little bit of a, fog. You're like, where am I? At the minor leagues, you're like, where the heck am I when you wake up? But that was crazy time.
I want to go back to one more thing, international, and then I'll basically have, I think, all my questions asked. And I've always been fascinated by your journey, and I know I've told you this even privately on your side, but the fact that you've obviously did what you did, college, Little League, World Series, and so on and so forth. You played in Italy, like you've played in countries where I would think you were almost like what is happening here kind of guy. Talk to us a little bit about your experience about playing in Italy. I just think that's really
well.
Cool.
It'll come getting back to Brent Strom, because he has a part in the story of my Italian journey. I got released in 1991 twice by the Angels, It's an interesting story. I played with the Giants in 1990. Roger Craig, Mr. Split Finger Fastball himself, was the manager. So he asked me one day, he goes, "Have you ever tried to throw the split finger?" I have very, very small hands for a pitcher. I said, "No, I can't get that ball in there comfortably." So what did I do over the winter? I jammed a softball between my two fingers and it messed up a ligament in my hand. So the very next year with the Angels, I didn't know really why. Something was not right. I ended up getting released after 14 innings in AAA. Then I got signed by the Mariners. I pitched terrible that year. I got released by the Mariners after pitching a month and a half. So halfway through the season, guys, I got released twice. I didn't really know what was going to go on. So Brent Strom calls me and says, "Hey, I heard what happened. They have baseball in Italy. What do you think about going to Italy?" I had no idea they even played there. So I reached out to the Italian people. They said, "You can't play this year because you've already played in a season, started a season." So I said, "Well, who knows? Maybe I'll go next year." So I get on a plane. I fly to Milan, Italy, like 13 hours on a plane. I get there. I go right to the ballpark. I pitched 3 innings in an inter-squad game after a 13-hour flight. And then it dawned on me, what am I doing here in Italy? But Italy really kind of rejuvenated my love of the game. I realized I could still do it. I got a chance to hit for myself. I hit 9 home runs in 36 games. I ended up pitching really well, the best that the team had ever done. And I ended up meeting my agent, who is still a friend to me this day. I pitched this incredible game one day, 9 innings shutout, 2 hits, 13 strikeouts. I remember I only threw 92 pitches at it and struck out 13 guys in a 9-inning game. And so he walks up to me, my agent, his name is Oscar Suarez, and he looks at me and he goes, "Can I ask you something?" He goes, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "You're so much better than the guys in this league." And I just looked at him and I said, I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a job in the States. I came here thinking it was a vacation. And then he looked at me and he said, "If you still want to play baseball in the States, I will get you a job." So he got me a tryout the following year to a spring training with the Chicago Cubs in Mesa. 100 players were there. I was one of 60 pitchers. It reminded me of the movie The Rookie. I was the rookie. Only I didn't throw 96 like Dennis Quaid. So listen to this. So they got me on the gun. I was throwing 89 miles an hour. And they said, I threw 2 innings in an inter-squad game. I struck out 5. And they said, "We really like you. We don't know really what we can do for you." So Sid Thrift, you guys remember the name Sid Thrift, right? So Sid Thrift, he says, "Well, why don't you throw batting practice for the big league team? You want to talk about feeling like a piece of shit?" I threw batting practice for 5 days. And after the 5th day, I said, "Sid, I really appreciate this opportunity, but I'm not a batting practice pitcher. I can still pitch." I go, "If you guys don't have a job for me, I'm going home." So he said, they thought about it for a minute and they said, "Why don't you come out tomorrow, try out with the AAA team and see what happens?" I had a great spring training, made the AAA team, had a great year in Iowa. We won the championship in Iowa. And then what happened was I didn't get called up. I did really phenomenal that year. I had great numbers. And Oscar got me a job in Mexico, and I played winter ball. And that's when I really got noticed by the Marlins and the Oakland A's. And the Oakland A's ended up signing me after that winter ball season. But Italy really got me back on the map, so to speak.
I love this story. I mean, I hate the story about the Cubs and all of that. I love the rest of it.
All right, so running out of time, I have a few rapid questions for you. Rapid fire, Ed. Just give me some short answers here.
Okay.
Favorite teammate?
Oh my God, that's a tough one. Probably I got to come up with Kurt Stillwell. I don't even know if you remember this name.
I do. For the
podcast.
He was a great guy. We played together in Texas. He wasn't a great player. He was a utility guy, but he was one of my favorite teammates.
All right, favorite manager and those 10 teams.
Oh gosh, I love Terry Francona, and I love Leland, and I love LaRussa. I would say those three guys are a tie.
It's hard to narrow those three down. I agree.
Yep.
Even to this day, Tito said he's going to take a year or two off, and he's probably going to come back because he loves it so much. But last question: favorite big league experience?
That's a hard one. I would probably have to say warming up in the bullpen and almost getting into that game, in the World Series. You dream of it as a kid, getting in a World Series. I was lucky to pitch in 2 games. I struck out Jim Thome, in the World Series. He's in the Hall of Fame. I had some decent success against some really good players. I struck out Tony Gwynn in a game, which Tony didn't strike out.
Right.
He don't strike out. So yeah, I was lucky enough to play. I faced Reggie Jackson, struck him out. So it's kind of cool, some of the guys I was able to face.
Ed, I appreciate the time. I love the stories. It's been amazing. Ben, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate you helping set this up. It's been an amazing interview. And guys, I appreciate your time. And I would love to have you back on if you'd be willing to do so in the future.
Oh, I'd love to do it again. I'd love to. Ben and I have been talking about doing something like this ourselves. So thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate you guys.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.